I'd like to welcome everyone here on this live stream. My name is Rami. I'm part of Lab Metal. We are doing this series talking with different musicians from different countries, but starting first with many of the talents from Lebanon. Today, this is our second episode. Today, we're talking to Anthony Kaoteon. Anthony is a talented musician and composer from Lebanon. He's the founder of the band Kaoteon, and he's behind the new project, the relatively new project, Death Tribe. His band Kaoteon has won the Metal Hammer's Gold Global Metal Award in 2018. And today I'm happy and glad to welcome him to this talk, and we'll be discussing his entire journey with music. Welcome, Anthony.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. This is quite a nice introduction. So happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
I'm glad to have you and nice to see you again. While unfortunately it's on Zoom, but at least that's not bad. Half good, half bad. I have a lot of questions for you, a lot of things to discuss, and you have a long history with music, starting from Lebanon, and now you're in the Netherlands and you're still producing new albums. You have 2 albums at least coming soon. So we're gonna be talking about that. I'm gonna start right at the beginning. So I would say my first question would be like, how did you get introduced to music and how did you get involved in it?
Get introduced to music, that goes really well, a very long while ago. Any type of music, I guess the family was musical, have nothing to do with metal or rock. Talking about maybe my mother used to listen to some of the Beatles and the classics, Andy Bocelli and stuff like that. But it all started really hitting the nerve of rock and metal when my uncle started giving me tapes or listening. He had a big LP collection of Elvis Presley and Pink Floyd's and Van der Graaf and Eloy and Yes and King Crimson. So I was super intrigued by that kind of music, but he as well listened to a lot of metal. I remember him having tapes and CDs of very underground bands, talking about bands. If I'm not mistaken, he had the Carcasses, he had the Unleashed, he had the Napalm Death albums. So Obituary and a whole lot of albums, Slayer. And I used to take these tapes, and at the beginning it was just because it's so fucking cool and heavy. But at the same time, yeah, I really enjoyed progressive rock. So if I may say, what attracted me was progressive rock, and then the wave of California Bay thrash metal with the Megadeth and the Metallicas and the Slayers and the Exodus and all that stuff. But as well, I got super interested in the heavy stuff just after, because it's somehow metal becomes like you need an extra dose of blast, an extra dose of speed. So this is in a nutshell how it all started. Now I'm trying to think of it. I quite remember that the first concert, that's, if I want to remember the first thing I saw on a TV or a video or a VHS back then, like the first image for me that is related to rock, I think it was Kurt Cobain wearing a bra, playing drums. Don't ask me what concert is that, or if I'm hallucinating. It could be from all the amount of stuff I took in my life.
I wouldn't be surprised if Kurt Cobain is wearing a bra. That's totally used to be normal for him.
I think that I'm not hallucinating. Kurt Cobain, wait, I would love to see that. Kurt Cobain wearing a bra. Yes.
It's a thing, right? It's a thing. So maybe that would be your next album cover.
That would be fantastic. He's not wearing a bra, but he's definitely wearing like a woman's gown, I think you call it. It's in Brazil, 1993. It was a concert.
On the stage, I've seen it. I think I've seen it.
Yes, and the thing is that one was on MTV, live in Lebanon on TV. So for me, that, like, it was something different to see. So yeah, look, this thing. So it's quite fantastic for me to see this.
So there was a time
Yeah.
when MTV was at least showing some rock music, some heavier part also at some moments. And
They
now
did.
MTV like is not something we consume at the moment, right? It's not something that
No, it's not
influences the
something
new.
we consume at
Yeah,
all. But MTV was playing metal music, not like some rock. They
yeah,
were playing everything. You could see everything on MTV. And if you go back on YouTube
yeah.
and you watch metal on MTV video clips with the logo, there's ample. The band's Death, the band's a lot. I cannot start naming a lot of bands.
So
And that's
the
MTV Beirut. Remember, it was MTV Beirut
okay,
back
yeah,
then.
local.
So yeah, it was something.
So you got into the music and through different genres, and of course you went, for the addiction to the heavier and heavier and faster, louder,
Yeah.
and the death growls and all that. But when did you pick up an instrument? Like when did you say, okay, I'm gonna try to make my own music?
I picked my instrument very early on. I think it was 1992. My mother passed me her classical guitar. She never played it. She kept it because thinking that she will pass it on to her children, one of her children. And
Okay,
she tried to play it. She bought it when she was, I think, in college, and she gave it to me. And that guitar was something very dear to my heart, and it was destroyed in Lebanon in one of the music shops, but unintentionally. So I will not
okay,
talk about it. It was a melody guitar from Italy, made in Italy. Long story short, she gave me the guitar, and she gave me a like a private tutor for like a couple of months, and then I entered the music conservatory for a couple of months, but I didn't like it at all because it was like after school you had to go to school, and it was very dry. And I remember the big brown classic music book from I forgot his name, the bald guy who leads the Lebanese Philharmonic Orchestra.
yeah. I also wouldn't remember at the moment the name, but
Yeah,
I know who you're
at
talking about.
least he used to back in the day. I'm not sure if he's
Yeah,
still there, but he used to. His book was there with all the classics. So I didn't like it because it was very yeah, by the book, and they were teaching you the classical way. It wasn't creative at all. So I left the guitar after that for like a couple of years, but it was always in the back of my mind to go back. And I think in 1997, I started like I picked up the classical guitar again. I was now a teenager almost. I think I was 13, 14 years old. I'm born in 83, so I think I was 14, 13. And if I remember correctly, it was after Desperado. So I picked up
okay.
the guitar. Yeah, I picked up the guitar again, and I started playing some acoustic songs.
And you
Like
thought playing the guitar will get you a Salma Hayek at the time?
not only Salma, all the other chicks as well. but
Okay.
maybe I don't remember the details. It could be because it was cool. He was wearing black. I
Yeah.
was listening to the music, but it was all together, right? Like I had this classical guitar. I saw it. I forgot about it, and then I saw this. And long story short, I remember buying a Samick guitar. I don't know if
Hmm.
this band is known outside like Lebanon and these countries.
I don't think
So
much. No.
yeah, and I bought a Samick guitar and I started learning by myself. So then I took some lessons with a guy called Marcelino in Anime.
Hmm.
He showed me the way for like 3 months. He showed me like the pentatonic scale and a couple of, I think, Angie by Rolling Stones and something by Led Zeppelin, but not one of the famous ones, and a couple of other tracks. And I went to him. I remember I had these tapes of metal and I wanted to play like that. And he was trying to tell me, no, you shouldn't focus on this. This is easy. Try to play Joe Satriani and Steve Vai. I think,
Yeah.
not I think,
Technical.
I'm sure that it was from the same circle of Alain Azar and like Alain knew Marcelino. I'm 100%
Uh-huh.
sure.
Yeah.
I don't know what was the relationship, but Marcelino is a bit older, but he was a freaking good guitarist. And yeah, I mean, after that, I just started playing by myself and trying to improve basically from what I know. So, not technically, just play the music I love. because I never was into technical music. Like from progressive rock, I moved to black metal, and from black metal, I moved to doom metal, and from doom metal to old school death metal and thrash metal. So for me, all of this is not about the techniques; it's more about the feeling. So yeah, this is how it picked up.
So you got more and more into the music. You got your guitar. You learned to play at least the necessary techniques and the necessary theory, at least behind it, or where to move your fingers on the fret. Then you
Yeah.
started making your own music, and at the same time, you're always appreciating new music. So before I
Yeah.
start talking a bit about your albums, then before we start with your bands, I just want to know. I'm curious a bit. So what is this music of the devil people keep talking about? So what is this about?
Depending on what in what context do you mean, like music of the devil? The
So
people in Lebanon or the people in general or
even
metal?
in general, you know that at some point, like anything metal, anything more extreme, right? You went from prog to the extreme. So
Yeah.
why is it always the extreme that has to be the devil's thing?
I think because of ignorance more than anything else. Because if you want to do a ritual of any kind, I think you want more ritualistic music, and you don't want metal music. Metal music is more the equivalent of metal music in electronic music would be drum and bass and dubstep, but it's not devil's music in any way, shape, or form. Maybe in the 80s and the 70s, they were pissing off parents and pissing off the system and the authority by doing what's opposite. And of course, metal was big in the US and in Europe. And these countries are predominantly Christian in terms of values, and especially back then in the 80s, and how people thought. So the metalheads being rebels and misfits, and they didn't like the traditional way of making sure that people go by the book. They took the image of devil worshippers, and this stuck with the music since then. However, metal is not the devil's music, as simple as that.
Okay, so I tend sometimes to compare it also like to to the movie industry. Like you might watch a romantic movie, maybe that's most of the music you hear on the radio, and then you can combine an action movie with a horror movie, and that would be almost what is in metal. Could you say like
Yes
that?
and no. Yes and
Okay.
no, because action and horror movies are definitely a genre
Mm-hmm.
like metal,
Mm-hmm.
but in music, like it is again when I say ignorance, because if you do a very soft classical tone that is ritualistic, and you're speaking of rituals and the devil, and you're convincing someone, or something that is repetitive, like let's say a psychedelic song that is repetitive with the same beat, going on and on and on, and telling you something that you need to do after you listen for so long, again and again and again and again. It
Okay.
could be more ritualistic, and it could be more subconscious, and it could be more convincing to commit any act
Mm-hmm.
than metal music. Metal music,
Yeah.
most of the time, they say, how the fuck do you understand what he's shouting? So
Yeah.
if there is any intention to recruit people from shouting, then
That's
they
not
would,
working.
yeah, it's not
Yeah.
working, right?
Yeah.
So the whole idea, it's stupidity. I
Mm.
cannot say anything else. Yes, there are some bands in metal that talk about the devil and devil worshipping, but they talk about multiple other things as well, just like any other genre. Do you think
Mm-hmm.
that pop music doesn't have like Satan worshipping lyrics?
Yeah, we mentioned
Or
last time Hotel California as like one of the most famous tracks, and it's clearly about that.
I'm not sure if it
Yeah.
is or not,
Yeah.
because it's not super clear to me. However,
Okay.
it is a perception and to the understanding of the listener. You can take
Mm.
any text in the world and make it seem
Interpret.
as if, yeah, make it
Mm.
turn as if it is a different meaning. So yeah, I would say all this stuff about devil worshipping for me doesn't make any sense. First, I do not believe in any shape or form about any idol, whether good or bad. Second, it's non something like beyond for me. Like I don't even bother thinking about it. If a band is doing it, like many bands today, I like the show as a clownish, as a comedy show, just like as if I'm watching a movie. And then I would, yes, compare it with a movie or theater. Like, okay, I'm watching a movie about stuff that are negative and dark shit, but I don't think of it as, oh, it's devil worshipping music.
Yeah.
Yeah, I listen to metal while I'm having fun. It doesn't have to be with a candle and
In the dark room. You see, this is
in
a
a
very
dark
bright
room.
room, and I'm listening to metal, so I don't turn off the lights for it.
Exactly.
So you of course have your own view on what this music represents for yourself to begin with, and you have a diverse knowledge of diverse styles of music, and then you wanted to create your own, and you started with Kaoteon as your first band, right? And you wanted to have music produced and recorded as your original, or you started first as a cover thing, like most bands start? And when you decided to start creating your original, what was your goal?
I never played, like, I never started a band to play covers. And I don't think I changed my principles so much. I think from the beginning, I was always saying, if you just want to be another band that plays another song, why be? Like, if you even want to sound like another band you love and respect, listen to that band rather than playing something super similar to it. And ever since I was not able with the skills to do that, or maybe till now, I'm trying to make a sound of my own, not saying that I succeeded, but at least this is my intention. If I succeeded, I leave it to the people who listen to my music, if they can identify when they are listening to Kaoteon, if it is Kaoteon sound, or they feel like, okay, it sounds like many other shit out there, then this is my measurement of success. If they like it or they don't, it's not my measurement of success. Or else I would play music that's more accessible. Of course, I appreciate if people like the music, but it's not why I'm doing the music. I'm doing the music as a message, and I'm doing the music to separate. Now, you want to say something?
I just want to say, so you want to make it as identity and message rather than just popularity, of course.
Yes, I mean, don't get me wrong again. Popularity is freaking awesome.
Okay.
When I was young, I wanted the underground and keep it dark and keep it below the radar. The more it is underground, the better.
Yeah.
But you cannot survive as a musician. And at the end, it is music, and you want to keep the blood flowing, right? So you need the pulse, and the pulse is the people. So without the people, you don't need to release stuff. Then I will play it in my room. I don't have a band. I don't work on an artwork.
Yeah.
For everybody who doesn't know, maybe we're jumping into a different topic, but every single album costs a fortune. It's not like you plug your guitar, you come up with ideas, and then you record it and you put it out there. Unless you want to play bedroom black metal music that sounds like it was recorded in 1986. Back then, this type of music was fantastic. And when you want to listen to that, you go and get a band from 1986, 1987, you pick it up, you play it. It sounds like bedroom music, but it's freaking awesome because back then the quality was like that. It brings you back. It's like drinking a very vintage wine or whiskey. But if you want to make music today in the 2020 and sound like that, you are free. I'm not saying no. However, it wouldn't cost you a fortune. Today, you have to compose, you have to record, you have to send it back and forth, you have to practice. A lot of bands don't have the luxury of a palace. They need to rent a jam room. Every session costs a lot of money per hour. Then you have to drive to this jam room. Not to say that you have to record, you have to book a studio, it costs thousands of dollars. Then after recording every single instrument, you have to mix, it costs thousands of dollars. And then you have to master, it costs thousands of dollars. And then you have to make an artwork, it costs thousands of dollars, maybe hundreds of dollars, depending. But I mean, every single process costs a lot of money. So nobody is in it to keep it in the bedroom, unless they were really blessed with a lot of money, and they don't give a fuck, and they're just spending it like they spend it on a Louis Vuitton bag. I don't know. But yeah, so I don't know how we got here, but I think
that's a good connection to what I want to talk about next. It's directly connected to it. So now that you described how difficult it is to get something recorded and out there, You started with having 3 tracks released in Provenance of Hatred, right? That was like an EP, I would say, 2003, right? How was the process for that, and like how difficult was it as the first time you're recording your own material?
It was pretty difficult for 3 reasons. One, we were clueless. We didn't know what the fuck we were doing. I had my semi guitar. I didn't have an amplifier or a pedal. I always played unplugged, and I recorded and I composed the album unplugged. I used to go when I rent a place to jam in Peak Hall in Sin El Fil. I forgot the name of the room now, above the station. In Sin El Fil as well, next to Mat'am Abu Joseph. In these places, I used to plug and hear if my riffs sound the same way they would sound, because I didn't come from a place where I could afford everything that I want. I wasn't poor, but I wasn't able to afford a lot of things. Like I would wait until my birthday, Christmas or something to get something small, and anything for music, it's really big. So I couldn't do that. So before I was working at 16, 17, I was counting on the money I get from my family, and then I couldn't afford a lot of music equipment. Having said this, I remember pretty well that we booked a studio for a day, and in that studio, in the same day, we recorded the guitars, the drums, and the vocals. And I think the vocals were recorded in a couple of takes only. This is why I still love this album so much. The cover artwork of this album is actually a fire that I shot with a camera on a Kodak film. If people that are watching,
if they know what that is,
know what that is. And then I made it into black and white on paint. And then I increased the contrast. And then I wrote the Kaoteon and Provenance of Hatred in a font, the most black metal font I could find. And then I tilted it in a way, I don't know if people see it, but so till now, I still see in the middle a figure of a sculpture that is half alien and half human. If you zoom in, if you zoom in next to the V, it's the same line of the V. Yeah, and then zoom in.
Here?
Yes, exactly. I still see.
Yeah, I see it.
Split half, one looking on the right side, that is human and lifting its hand up, and the other side is like a devil kind of thing, an alien kind of figure. And then you can hallucinate and on the rest a lot. I see many other faces, but that's just me. But at the end, this is a fire that we were having a fire camp somewhere, and then I took the picture of the fire, and that was it. Basically, not the fire, the wood, when the fire is almost over. So that's it. And then I remember Riyadh was an amazing drummer. I'm not sure if he still drums, and he recorded back then as well, like in the studio. If I'm not mistaken, you're taking me back so long, but yeah, I think that was 2001.
It's released 2003, at least what I see in the history.
Yeah.
So this was a kind of a strange experience, right? Just trying to figure things out, and even like you were the artist for the cover, right? So, you could say.
Yeah.
But I think it's a really interesting story of the cover. It's a personal thing, and there is a lot of interpretations that could come out of it, right? So there seems to be a long break. Seems to be 2003 to 2011. I know you had a single released 2008. You also released something like something called Chaos Unleashed, sort of a recorded thing. And you had a lot of Slayer covers there. I'm not going to talk too much about it, but I just from guessing, like, you were still like too much into Slayer in 2004, I would say.
No. So basically, having been a Lebanese band with little to no means, we didn't have access to studios, we didn't have access to these things, but we were playing a lot of live shows, and we had quite a decent following and fans and friends. I'm not sure if I call them fans, I call them friends.
Mm-hmm.
And back then, you know, there was the cameras, the huge ones, and with the VHS, you put the full VHS in them, the video cameras, and then you had the smaller ones suddenly, and you put a small tape. It looked like a VHS. I don't know the technical word, but as well, it was still a tape. It was not digital. It was still a tape. It was still analog.
Yes.
And some people had it with a screen. So I remember that we used to take, whenever we can, we used to take these kind of cameras and put them in the jam room and only record, like, sometimes not even the film, but we record the sound. And then time passed and we couldn't record the freaking album. That was all the songs were there. We were playing live and we were playing original songs and cover songs. But what I did is I took some of these recordings and I put them out as a bootleg album, because I wanted to put something out and I didn't have the money. So I had this, and then there was the internet. So I was able to upload these files online and call it an album. There is no physical album out there.
Yeah, it wasn't.
And I remember as well, I did the Chaos Star. I asked someone actually from Germany to do the Chaos Star for us.
Yeah.
And I put the Chaos Star there, and then I put it as an album or an EP, or I don't know what I called it back then, but it was out.
Yeah.
And that was how it was. You just tried to do it in any shape or form.
I tried to find a picture to share it. I only found the pizza with the Chaos Stars. So I don't know why, but I couldn't find the picture. So many of those tracks, or I think some of those tracks, ended up being on then the next album, right? Veni, Vidi, Vomui. That was 2011. So that was, like, I would say, the first really recorded, good quality, better produced album, right?
Yeah.
And you would see this as kind of your starting proper album, right? Your first release.
Yes, absolutely. No, it's not kind of. It was our first proper release. Yeah. It was with one of the dearest friends of mine, Ziad Al-Alam, on the drums. We found this chap. It's a long story how we found him, but the first time I went to Ziad, he said, "No, I'm not interested to play, blah, blah, blah." It took him some time, and then he started playing with us, and I think he likes the music now, and he always supports the band. But we recorded this in Hamra, at Karim Sinno. Today he has a studio, and he's working with a lot of Lebanese and pop artists, as well as metal artists, I believe.
Yeah.
And he is quite a talented guy today. But back then he was still starting, and it was his one of his debuts, I would say. We still paid him what we could back then, and he did a huge amount of work in the production and the sound of the drums, and even the mixing and putting it out there. So it was a collective work, and I mean, those songs are really dear because you played them live so many times, and then putting them on a record was really a something. And we tried our best to do our best back then. And I'm super proud of it. I played the guitars and bass on that album, and sometimes I forget that I played the bass because I never held the bass before recording the bass there. So
how did that work?
I just played
picking, right?
I played guitars on the bass, so this is what happened. I played guitars on the bass, and I tried to change the tonation on some riffs and stuff. You can hear it. I think on some songs it's heard. On some songs the mixing is so bad that the bass is not heard. But I think on Anthem of the Dead you can hear it. I'm playing different lines, so I didn't copy paste. I did a lot of effort, but it's not shown because of the quality, as well of not only the quality because of the recording quality of the studio, no, because of our instruments and the know-how that we know how to play, and what we could do. Like we were using triggers because we thought it's the best thing on drums. But then sometimes if you really focus and you have hi-fi speakers, you could hear the triggers and the original drums.
Yeah,
so it's ridiculous. So it is our first record. It's a great learning, I would say. And we were still trying. We started very young, and we were still young back then.
So it's always kind of a learning process, but you reach a certain level, and then there it slows down, right? Like you could learn fast, and it might slow down at a certain level, or there's always like a way up to go for.
The more you know, the more you learn. the more you know, the more you know how to learn.
So you took,
So at the beginning, you're stupid. You don't know what you're doing, and then you learn small things, and you think you know a lot. But once you start knowing how to do things and how to play and how to, you start thinking, oh my God, the opportunities. And then you start doing things differently, but you open new doors, and then you start working on programs. You start plugging your guitar on a big pedal, and you start working with effects, and you start recognizing the different sounds. Because trust me when I tell you, most of the guitarists don't fucking know the difference when they are plucking different guitars or amps or pedals when they haven't been experienced. So if you are playing for 2-3 years, you don't really hear the difference of a lot unless you are doing quite a change. But on the same amp, if you plug different guitars, unless you're going from a Gibson to an Ibanez with humbuckers or a Jackson, you would hear the difference. But if you have an Ibanez, a Jackson with humbuckers and with a Floydrose, and you tell me that they can hear the difference and what they can do with it differently, with high distortion and high gain, they're bullshitting. So it comes with time, and then you start knowing, okay, why do I need different things and how can I use them to my advantage and all that stuff. I just realized I'm wearing one of the Lebanese sweaters. I didn't realize. Cool too.
Cool. Where did you find that one?
My sister bought it to me.
That's cool. Okay. I'm wearing also the other sweaters, but this one's for the Leb Metal sweater. So that was 2011. There was some time, like unknown time. What was happening until 2018? Then you had your other release. That was Damnation Memoriae, right? So there was 7 years in between. Is there a reason there was too much time? And then how did that album exist?
There are several reasons. First, from the demo to the first album, it was money and Lebanon. Second, from the first album to the second album, change of members, change of location. Ziad was still in Lebanon. I went to Dubai. Walid went to Qatar. Then we weren't talking so much. You are moving, you don't have your equipment, you cannot practice, you're busy with other things, you're trying to focus on your work, or else you will be deported back home, and you don't want that shit. You're trying to make new friends, you're trying to build up your life, because it's very fucking hard to be an expat, and you think it's hard when you are in the Gulf, but it's super easy in the Gulf. In comparison with being outside, you're in Germany. I think you have tasted the bitterness of being an expat, especially when your family is back home and you don't have a lot of connection and networks.
Yes.
But at the same time, it comes with its advantages. No, we're not nagging, just to be clear. So I think Damnatio, until we settled a bit and like we were able to go back into the zone of creative zone. I was playing a lot of riffs. I always played guitars because it was my go-to to release some steam. It was my best friend. And every single time that I wanted to think or do something, long story short, by the time we were ready, I had ample of riffs. So it was super easy to put them into a record. And I decided to use some of the riffs that I composed even before the demo. Like Raging Hellfire. A lot of people, maybe I mentioned it in an interview or two. A lot of people don't know that Raging Hellfire was the first song I composed for Kaoteon, not Decrepitude or Provenance or Wrenched. So half of it is actually the actual first riffs of Kaoteon. So yeah, from 2011 to 2018, why it was so different. 2011, we were released on Osmos Productions. We had big dreams to tour, to go to play festivals and summers. None of it happened because we're born in Lebanon. We have Lebanese passport. We have so many limitations. We thought going to the Gulf will give us some means to record better quality music, and it happened. You can feel it, I think, in Damnatio, that we have much better quality, much better access to equipment, much better access to instruments. We were able to attract, by the quality of the demos, talents like the drummer back then of Marduk, Frederick Critics, who played on the album. And Marduk is one of my favorite black metal bands in some albums and one of the worst in some. But we were watching them live, I remember, and I was like, okay, I want this drummer on my album. And I chased him, and we were able to get him on the album, which was freaking awesome, in my opinion. That was the first, let's say, win on the album. Then I already had worked with Linus on the first Death Tribe album, which was released after this one. But another win was to have Linus on the album from Obscura. And that's like, okay, the people I was watching live, and I always thought they are the best musicians in the field. Now I have them on my album. So I have to record it in the best place, and I have to mix it in the best place, and I have to master it in the best place, and I have to work with an amazing artwork designer who was Nestor from Mexico. So we tried to push it to the limit. Like, we did everything the best way possible. So why? Because we didn't want to release anymore. Like, we had the knowledge that 2011 was amazing as Veni, Vidi, Vomui, but if we look back at it in quality and what we could have done with it, it could have been much better. And we didn't want to release another just to do it album. We wanted to make an album that is really of high quality. And it took us 7 years to realize that. And Damnatio came to life. And then it won a lot of attention, and it got us international fame, I would say.
So that was like a major transition in quality, and in having the guests and having a well-produced, a much better produced album, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And by the time you had a following, you had let's say, more audience, right? You had already had bigger audience, and you had feedback from the audience. Do you usually like get kind of a feedback from the people waiting for the new album?
Do I get feedback? Yes. New album, not always, but I always get feedback, especially on the old stuff. Like if I talk about Damnatio, even 6 years of silence from Veni, Vidi, Vomui, I was super active, and I was still now. I always talk to everyone online, and whoever reaches out, I try to talk to them. I post a lot of things online just to keep the blood flowing, because being an expert, you have to work during the day. So the only way to stay connected with people and your music is sharing it and keeping this in the background of people that you are there. So having said this, yeah, a lot of people reach out. And do they ask about the new album today? Yes, they do ask, like what's going to happen, when it's going to be released, especially when you put some news out there. But back then, we weren't putting a lot of news out there. So people didn't ask about new album, but they always reached, because Veni, Vidi, Vomui, we have, I think, some people that did tattoos from that album on their bodies. We have people that have backdrops in their rooms. I was in 2 festivals in 2 separate years, and I saw Kaoteon t-shirts being worn from that album, and we never made t-shirts. So these people took the time and effort to create their own t-shirts, and they are like from some different country, I don't know where from, because I felt a bit silly to approach them, you know, like what should I do? I approached one of them, it was super cool, but the first time I saw someone, I didn't. And I remember I was wearing a t-shirt once that I did, and I wore it live. It was a white Kaoteon t-shirt that I did very long time ago, and I was wearing it in France, and someone approached me and he said, yeah, you know this band? It's awesome, the underground black metal band from Lebanon. And I played the role. I was like, yeah, I know them, I really like them. I didn't tell him who I am because he didn't recognize me. So it was like a nice chat with the fellow.
As a third person, you were there as a third person, just listening to the guy talking about it.
Exactly. Like I was super interested to hear, like, he doesn't know me, so let's hear what he would say. And it was really those little things that keep you going. It's not it was never about the money or fame, because you don't make money from this music, to be honest. Like you invest everything you make in the music itself. So if anyone is in it for the money, unless you hit fame or you are on the road for a very long time. So I am not on the road. But if someone wants to make money, the only way is to be on the road and sell merchandise and play concerts.
So yeah, so it's not just recording the album. There's the touring, there's the merch, there's connecting with the people, right? There's the complete follow-up, right, on just the record itself.
Exactly. The album is nothing. Like the album is your entry point, and then you need to work on promoting it. You need to work on making sure that you have the right material to promote it. You have to have the connections. You have to keep it going. Ideally, you have to tour, because it's your first entry point to fans and the people that are coming for the bigger bands that are playing, and then the merchandise. So yeah, it's a whole lot of work. It's a full-time job. It's not something to be messed, like think that it's cool to do it. You can, but don't expect a lot of return if you don't put a lot of effort. So you need to put a lot of effort, and of course I would have gotten much more out of it if I had the time and the luxury to put more into it. So I believe if I go back and tell 20 years, 20 years younger me, one thing is to do things differently. I would tell them tour more often, even if you thought back then that it's not gonna happen because you're from Lebanon and you couldn't make it because of it. I would say just try it when you still can. Why not?
So that has become even more important today. In the past, used to sell CDs. Now the people just stream it, and the concert itself is a better revenue, right, for an artist.
Because I think playing live was always important. It never was only selling CDs. I mean, you reach the level where you sell CDs, but how do you get there? You tour and tour and tour. People know you. You drink beers with the fans. You get them excited. You show them what you do. You tell them about your music. This is your first entry point. You have 200, 300 people in a room that are looking at the stage, and you have their full attention, and especially before the internet. So you're talking about CDs. That was maybe 7, 8 years ago, and less people had internet. And if we talk about 20 years ago, then nobody had internet. So playing live was always the thing, and it still is. Now competition is fierce. Musicians are not paid as before. They're not respected as before. You have to pay to play until you are important, and this is fucked up, especially that a lot of bands come from able families that they can pay to play, and venues and labels are starting to pick up bands like this to make profit. Not all labels, of course, there are so many respectable ones, but there are so many good talents that come from able families. It doesn't mean like if you have money, that means you are shitty musicians. There are so many good bands with money that are paying for their slot, and the poor bands cannot reach. So yeah.
That seems to be flipping the business model, where the label is making profit from the bands, from giving them the opportunity to play, rather than from the audience.
Model. It was always the business model. But
but directly by the band paying, not the fans.
Yeah. But before, all of them made money from the fans. Now, because the fans are not paying for the music and they expect to stream it and play it free, criticize it from the first 30 seconds and don't give it a chance. Before you had one tape per week to listen to. Today you have access to 1,000 albums per day if you want. You just flip through Spotify and from one song to the other, and I don't like it, I don't like it, I don't like it. Before you were stuck with an album. So I believe it was much easier to make it, because a lot of people, maybe they don't like you the first time, they would give you another chance and a third chance, and they would listen to their friend who said, man, listen to it, it's fucking amazing. Did you hear it at minute 1, 15 seconds, what he does, that role? Who talks about this now?
Nobody.
Yeah. Nobody talks about this now. It's all about, it's fucking amazing, listen to it. Okay, he listens to it once and he skips. And then if Spotify recommends it again, in his Discover Weekly or played before or I don't know what, it will come back unless you really love it. And this is why most people nowadays, they are listening to a bunch of albums themselves, like maybe 2 or 3 they go back to, and most of the other stuff is just whatever is recommended to them. So it's becoming harder and harder and harder because everybody has access to putting their music out there, which is cool, but it's detrimenting for the business and industry.
Yeah, so things are
I
changing.
think you're having some difficulties in the streaming.
Yeah, I noticed that. I was Patrick notified me, but I'm trying not to cut our talk. We're recording that anyway. We will upload it again on YouTube.
No worries. But we were, I think, from the beginning. I have 2 different IPs, and one of them was cutting, and then the second one cut. So I don't think we're live. But
now cool, we're live again. Now we're live again on the second stream. So I started a second stream. I think it's the problem between Facebook live stream and the software that is usually used for that. There's some conflict with the software, so I cannot change it. We are live at the moment, but with a bit of delay. It's a new link. I should be able to find it. Patrick already has shared it. So let's go forward. As I said, there will be some part people did not listen. That will be again uploaded on YouTube. So I wanted to ask you. So you got through this journey. There's the final album, Kaoteon, right? The self-titled. This is a strange thing to self-title an album much later, right? Usually, like maybe the first album is a self-titled one. Was there a reason you decided on having it with the title Kaoteon itself?
I don't have examples of bands titling the first album or the second. Like I never thought of it, honestly. Why we did it? I think it felt like this is Kaoteon. This is a sound, like it reached the maturity.
Yeah.
To the level where it felt like, okay, this is Kaoteon. And this is what it, like the sound, and how what it embodies, how it is really like. If you listen to it, we felt that it sounds like Kaoteon. It doesn't sound like Damnatio. If you still had some songs that you would be like, is this Kaoteon or not? Maybe yes, no. Speaking awesome, but I'm not sure. But this one, it felt like it has maturity. It had the melodies. It wasn't going super fast more than it should. It wasn't going super slow more than it should. It had the mid-tempo parts. It had the slow parts. It had meaningful lyrics that are not super angry, but more reflecting on reality of things. So that's why it was self-titled. And
okay.
I think that's how we thought of it and how we looked at it, because we always have names and stuff like that, and we joke about it. Like we name songs in the demo something that doesn't end up with the last thing, but we start with "لما قلت لعيري." I remember that was one of the tracks.
Okay.
or something like that, because when we were playing it, like I said "لعيري," and then it becomes "لما قلت لعيري." You know, like when I said "لعيري," which was something to remember the song by, and then it becomes something funny, but then we change it. So
you know, there's the band, of course, Ayat. I think like they have their songs sang in Arabic. You never considered like having one in Arabic sang.
Us?
Yeah, like a full Arabic track.
Yeah. So we do. We have in Veni, Vidi, Vomui, we have 2 tracks in Arabic.
Yeah, which one? Just for the listeners to check.
The one that was called لما قلت لعيري as a demo.
Okay.
جهنم وبئس المصير, which is the first track, and Anthem of the Dead. Both of them are fully sang in Arabic, and I think they were one of the first Arabic full songs in the metal genre released. They weren't the first, but they were definitely one of the first. Kaoteon has done a lot of firsts in the past. Like we were the first demo from a Middle Eastern country being released internationally on Unsung Heroes Records in the US, in Turkey with external distribution, in Russia on Ketzer, in the Netherlands with Diabolical Records.
So breaking new boundaries all the time, trying
Yeah,
to do
Veni Vidi
something new.
Vomui was signed to a
Mm,
major label, Osmos Production, that
mm.
had bands like Immortal when they were super famous, like Samael when they were super famous. They
Yeah, at the
still
time.
have Impaled Nazarene. They still have a lot of big bands in the metal history. I super respect Hervé for what he did and what he is doing, even if he took a different turn where he's focusing on the underground. But it's amazing, the history, and I'm super proud to say that we were signed to Osmos Production as an album. We were paid royalties by a French label that dealt with legendary bands, and they took this Lebanese band and released it, which was quite amazing. And then when you think of Damnatio Memoria, and then you think of, okay, we released that album, and then we had really top-notch musicians on that album, like Linus and like the drummer of Marduk, and we won the Golden Globe Award with Metal Hammer. Metal Hammer is one of the biggest metal magazines out there, and we were flown to the UK to receive the award. And we went on stage, on the same stage at the same night with the vocalist of Tool, who was receiving another category, but from the same committee, an award. And then we had Ozzy Osbourne and his wife in the backstage. From a distance, we're looking at Ozzy Osbourne, Maynard, the vocalist of Tool, and Sixth, the band. A lot of Lebanese don't know Sixth, but they're huge in the UK. So we were on that stage introduced by the vocalist of Hatebreed. So for me, these things are what I live for. Like, I feel like we are writing history of Lebanese metal little by little. Lebanese, or maybe you call it Middle Eastern or whatever. There are so many bands that did so many things, like bands who played festivals, that were the first to play festivals, not us. Others played festivals before us, which is amazing. I'm not saying that Kaoteon is better than others. I'm just saying we contributed to the story. We are so humble and proud of our contribution. It's not because we are better. We just did a different side of things. So this is what I love.
It is definitely a big achievement for a Lebanese band to be on those awards and among those big bands. And as you mentioned, also other Lebanese bands each have kind of breaking its own first, like touring, the first band maybe to tour, the first band to get this big award. Kaoteon is the first in this one. And I think a cumulative of all achievements of different Lebanese bands improves, the reputation of Lebanese bands, that they can do
That's
good
what
music.
I'm saying. Exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. I'm not saying like I noticed that it might feel like we're saying we did, as if we are better than others. Nobody cares about others or us. Like, it's only on our mind, like who plays first, who plays last. It's just that collectively we are writing story, we're writing history. So the new generation will look back to these bands and they will say, oh, there was a band that's called Kaoteon, that's called Weeping Willow, that's called Oath to Vanquish, that's called KIMAERA, that's called, I don't know, Ayat. So they will look back to these bands and say, oh, fucking hell, the Ayat was so controversial and like at the forefront of taking the topics to the extreme. We can't claim that position. They did it. We don't want to let them do it. But I mean, this is what they did. KIMAERA, I think they played festivals, and I think they were one of the first Lebanese bands to go out and play festivals. And I love them for what they did and the quality of the music they put out there in the video clips. Weeping Willow, they did a lot in the Lebanese metal scene, and they kept the blood going, and they had a lot of following. So it's all part of the history. It's nice, like, to see how it was and how it grew and what it has become. And you feel like you're super proud of it. And now you see that the same members are trying to do better. That you're just seeing it, like the same people that were playing at Cherries and Peak Hall and Crackaway. You see them now doing better quality music and getting to deal with like work. Last week we had an interview with Derek Roddy with World Metal Congress, and Derek is playing with Khavar, with the same people, Weeping Willow. And this is really like, it's dear to my heart. I love this. I love to see this happening. And it's all about hard work and perseverance and talking with one another and keeping the blood flowing.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's for me also. It's like a movement, and the more the movement grows, the more bands achieve, and the more bands achieve, the movement grows. So it's like a moving wave. And luckily, and actually, fortunately, and I'm happy, it's moving forward. More success, more global releases, more tours. But except this year, let's go to the future of Kaoteon before we move to another topic. What's coming next for Kaoteon?
What's coming next? 11 songs already composed,
Okay.
recorded, mixed, not mastered.
Okay.
The artwork is done.
Okay.
10 new songs, one revived song with a different twist.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully to be released in 2021. I'm not sure anymore if I want to go independently or maybe try to seek a label or not, because it costs a lot of money, and being a one man doing multiple projects, living abroad, it's quite taxing. So especially with COVID and everything and less money coming from the music, before it was at least somehow self-sustaining. Working in Dubai, you make more money than working in Europe. So as well, I could put more money into the music instead of buying stupid material things. So let me just say, hopefully 2021.
Okay.
I'll be working with the same musicians on drums and bass.
Mm-hmm.
I have Adrian Erlandsen from At the Gates and The
Mm-hmm.
Haunted on drums. And I have Linus Klausenitzer from Obsidious, Alkaloid, and Ex Obscura. He left Obscura.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I have on two tracks. I have added some strings. I have violins on the album, and I have a cello as well added on one of the tracks. So it will be different a bit in that sense, but it will be yeah, a continuation of the Kaoteon sound and what it is. And I'm working with a new vocalist from the Netherlands, who is a fantastic vocalist, and I'm really happy that we met. He's an amazing person and a friend, I can call him. And yeah, I mean, it's a journey, and I love to see how it evolves. So expect 11 new tracks in a new shape and form to hopefully continue this journey.
Next year. That's quite fast, right? Like going for one more album in the next year. Seems like you're
Yeah.
accelerating. You have much more ideas to put out, right?
Yeah, this is why when you said like, do you learn as less, like if you reach a plateau in the way of
Yeah.
learning?
Yeah.
I think no, because now it's like so many things happening.
More difficult to control even.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe because of all the
Okay.
Lebanese situation and what's happening, a lot of
Yeah.
ideas come to mind. You're inspired. You want to release some steam instead of going punching someone in the face. You sit on your guitar and you play music. But it is what it is. And now that I know how to record on my, people think that like we have a lot of equipment and stuff. If you see the laptop I record on, it's a Lenovo. You cannot see it now because of my background. It's a
Yeah.
Lenovo from 2009.
Nothing
No
so special.
internet, nothing. This is where all the music was recorded and still stored. So someday it will be destroyed because I don't have internet on it to put it on the cloud. So it is what it is. But now I know how to use it. I know how to record. So it's much easier to put stuff out there. Not because I have money or because I'm becoming more famous, if I can call it so. Maybe a bit more known instead of famous. I'm not famous. So yeah, maybe no, but definitely I know how to do it better. I know how to do it easier. Like I'm cutting the fat, keeping it lean, making sure that if there is anything that is a weight that's keeping me lagging, I cut it out. I work with new people and I just move forward and I don't look back, because I don't have the luxury of neither of time, nor of money, nor of
Compromising.
yeah, no, not just that. I mean, a lot of shit happens in our life, especially if you are Lebanese, and you really don't want additional drama and misery and everything. So you just keep moving forward and don't look back and say, fuck it. I want to make things happen.
So I'm going to ask you before we go back to another topic, another albums that are released and coming. On a side topic, you are one of those very few people, at least I know and I see in releases, who goes for relatively, the heavy death metal, black metal, who doesn't have a long hair, doesn't have the tattoos, and doesn't seem to need to look like a metalhead. Can you tell me a bit how's your perspective on that? Like, do you get comments like, you don't look like a metalhead, that kind of comments?
Yeah, I do. And it's funny because I don't know how a metalhead looks, but I understand where it's coming from. I mean, metal music for me is a genre, and it's not, for some people, they think that metal is an occult, which it could be. You can choose that this is your occult, but I think that my life is much more interesting than only to be limited to having metal as my bread and butter. So yeah, I have tattoos, a lot of them, but they are where they are. They're not on my face, they're not on my arms, because I lead a corporate job where I would like to stay and be successful. And I think it takes you to respect your position and where you are, especially as a Lebanese that have one of the shittiest passports you can ever dream of. So you need your job to be out there and be sponsored by a company due to your talent. So I wish I had the luxury to look the way I would love to look, but I cannot. And having said this, it's not like I regret it or I wish it. No, I'm quite happy with what I achieved, and it's not about how I look. It's about what music I create and what like even my favorite musicians. I believe they don't really go under the definition of how a metalhead should look.
Okay.
Like it's for me absurd how people think about the looks, you know.
So for the people worried about metalheads and Satanism, there are many metalheads that are undercover, right? That are among us. Do you think there's many metalheads among us that are hidden?
Everywhere.
Okay, so that's just for them to worry a bit more. That's just for that.
Everywhere you go, there are a lot of metalheads, and everywhere you go, watch out on your left. There's always a metal guy trying to give you the wrong message and enter your subconscious.
At least we don't go knocking doors, right? At least we're not doing that.
Yeah, exactly. We're not doing that. We're not doing that yet. You never know what's coming. You never know what's coming.
Okay. I want to ask you now. Now you have something going sort of in parallel to what Kaoteon is. You have your own also another project. I think you started in 2018 or 19. This Tribe.
I started in 2015, but of course, the first album went out in 2018. No, 19. 19. So I released Damnatio, and then I released Death Tribe. Yeah, it's going in parallel. It's a different thing because Kaoteon has its own sound. And of course, as any musician, in my opinion, you explore different genres. You become acquainted or you develop different tastes, and you would like to build other ideas and how you are perceiving your sound. So Death Tribe was started as an experiment. The album cover that you are showing, Beyond Pain and Pleasure, a desert experiment, because I was working in the Gulf, and there was a concert happening, and there was many versions of it. And it used to be called Desert Experiment 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the idea was that they get different musicians from different bands to play classic songs and covers and metal and others. So I was like, okay, this is my Desert Experiment. I don't like to play covers. And I talked to the organizer. I told him, can I use the name in one of my albums? I wanted to call it Beyond Pain and Pleasure. And then he was like, yeah. And then I was like working with multiple vocalists that I like from the region, from Lebanon. I worked with Jean-Michel, who has two bands that are freaking awesome, like Svengali and Damnatio. Damnatio is the continuation of people from Lebanon who remember Postmortem. And then you have Svengali, a Dubai-based band. And I worked with Serge Lutfi, who has Abhorred from the UK. He is an Armenian vocalist, and he now has two bands, Verdict and Aramaic, in Dubai. I worked with many other musicians, and it was a very awesome experiment and an amazing album. And I'm really proud of what we achieved, from technical death metal to heavy metal. I think it was a super cool concept that became a very important success pillar in my journey. And I have on that album the drummer of Dark Fortress, Matthias Landes. He played as well with a famous band called Revamp. They disbanded now with a female fronted vocalist, very famous back in the day. She's now the front female of a very big band. Check her out. And then I had on the bass. This was the first album I worked with, not Damnatio Memoriae, but this came after. It was released after, because I had less money being a one-man show in Kaoteon. I had more members that were contributing to the production, and here I was doing it alone and in parallel, and I didn't want to affect Kaoteon. So I was always putting the priority on Kaoteon, and now it's like a 50-50 because I am in both bands doing it all by myself. So yeah, it's quite an important step in my music career.
Okay, so that was the first release.
Yeah.
And now you're working on the second one. So that's what I see behind you, right? Beyond the Red Light District, a Canal experiment.
Exactly.
That's the second album coming.
Yeah.
You've released kind of a teaser, and you mentioned that you're working on something called the Red Experiment movie. So actually, you already have 3 experiments in Death Stride, right? You have the Desert, the Red Experiment, which for me sounds like Soviet Union, Mother Russia thing. You have to explain it to me. And the Canal experiment, I assume Netherlands is the Canal, but you have to tell me. So what's the story with those experiments exactly?
So all the music that I ever released until 2018, 19 was not composed in the Netherlands. It was composed either in Lebanon or Dubai. And then even this album, Death Tribe, Beyond Pain and Pleasure, it was all composed in Dubai. And I am the sole composer in all the albums for all the music. Like the music, I always did it by myself. The lyrics in Kaoteon were written by Walid until the last album, Kaoteon. And so this one, I decided to do this album because when I moved to the Netherlands, I was working on Kaoteon with Walid and with Adrian from At the Gates as well. But I had a lot of ideas as well that are different than black death metal, and I wanted to put them out there. And I wanted to work with the Dutch scene. So I was like going to concerts and seeing local bands here and thinking, okay, this guy sounds nice. This one has a lot of ego. I will not approach him. This guy is good. And this girl is freaking awesome, and why not try to reach out, get involved in the scene, show them that metal is a one identity wherever you come from. We all have the same passion. How can we collaborate and work together? I've only been here for some month, but I was super interested to be involved in this community because it is what I enjoy the most. Like, I love a lot of music genres, but really when I go to metal concert, I feel like, okay, this is my cocaine. So not saying that I love cocaine, but metal is my cocaine. So having said this, I decided to do Beyond the Red Light District because most of the people, they come to the Netherlands, they know Amsterdam, the red light districts, and marijuana, but there's a lot more.
Yeah, stereotype, famous stereotype.
Exactly. Every place has its stereotype, right? Like you go to Beirut, you think of terrorism and war and party and hot chicks. This is why people go there. It's cheap. There are hot chicks. They love partying, and it's coming out of war, so it must be like fucked up, and we can have an amazing time. This is why people from outside go to Beirut. And when you go to the Netherlands, I came to the Netherlands the first time in 2005. I came for the red light districts and for the marijuana. So this was what I expected to see out of it. But then I moved here, and you discover there's a lot of culture, a lot of concerts, a lot of things other than that. So I was like, let's play on that. And I said, beyond the red light district, and it is a canal experiment, because canals are like the veins in the Netherlands. They are across, like you can go from one canal from the beginning of the country to the end of the country. Not all of them, but some of them are interconnected, and it's amazing. So I thought of this name, Beyond the Red Light District, a canal experiment. And I was super lucky to meet many vocalists that are freaking awesome, and I had the chance to work with them and record with them. Of course, during COVID, we couldn't be super close and super like exchange a real friendship. I hope that after COVID, we will be able to do that. But the result is amazing. Like, I'm super proud of what we achieved. It's beyond what I would have thought I am able to achieve in a couple of years. This will be the third release in 3 years. 2008, Damnatio Memoriae, 2019, Death Tribe, 2020, Kaoteon, 2021, Beyond the Red Light District. And I don't think I compromised on quality 1 inch. It's beyond everything I have ever done. It's super, super well done. I'm super proud of it. And with it, because of COVID and because I cannot tour, I decided to make a full movie, and inspired by not in the theme, but the idea, by Pink Floyd, The Wall. Like when I grew up, I told you at the beginning of this talk that I was influenced by progressive rock, and I was always watching Pink Floyd, The Wall. So I decided, why not make a full movie, since we are sitting home, and we started working together with Dronicon Films in Argentina to develop this animated movie of 35 minutes that you enjoy while listening to the album. And it's really hitting on every nerve, from the explosion in Lebanon to the Black Lives Matter, to COVID, to industrial farming, to deforestation and climate change. So I'm really, again, super proud, and I think it is a first. Again, putting an album with a full movie is a first. And this is what I told you. If you want to make an album and sound just like another band that did it before, why do you want to exist? You can get fame because you are super technical and it's, wow, the fastest, the loudest. But it's not original for me if you're just doing something that was done in the past. So I'm trying to outdo myself. This is my way. I might succeed, I might fail, but this is my way of trying to overachieve what I did before.
So you're not afraid and to go to artists, contact them, connect with them, and see if they can work with you. You're not afraid to try to make this movie and release it in a new way. You're not afraid, to try. And I think you have to be bold. You have to have this kind of character to present something new, to reach some new level, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like if you always lose 100% of the shots you do not take. It's not, I didn't say it, but I live by this rule. Like, you have to try before you fail. If you don't try, you already failed. You have to plan in order to succeed. If you do not plan, you plan to fail. I use this in my day job. I use this in my music. I use this in everything. And this is what I do. So in this album, I have Baard from Leprous on the drums. Like, there is no fucking beyond quality that you can achieve than this. A lot of people may tell you a million story. Oh, Anthony lives in the Netherlands, he can do it. Anthony, I did it when I was in Lebanon. I did it when I was in Dubai because I believed I can do it. It's not because I am better. I'm not better. I might be the worst. It's just that I tried and I put myself out there and I sent the music and they liked it. And I was so lucky. And I'm super like happy that they accepted to work with me.
Can you tell me a bit, how did like different artists react to the first time you contacted them? Say, hi, I'm Anthony from Lebanon, now Netherlands. I'm working on something new. How did you get, what kind of reactions did you get from different artists?
Out of 100 artists, you get 10 replies. Out of the 10 replies, you get 8 no's.
Automatic 8 no's? Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I'm busy. It's not because they hate you. It's
yeah,
because they are really busy. They cannot. And some people will love your music. So
yeah,
you always try, and of course, with time, and you have a record that you are launching quality music.
yeah,
So hopefully, but again, like this is what I told you at the beginning. We don't make money of this music, but these are our achievements. So we think that
yeah,
this is what explains that you are doing something right. So people are accepting more and more to play with you. You don't need to reach out to 100 anymore. You reach to 3 people. You get, I'm busy this year, I can start next year. You think, okay, do I want to wait or not? Or you work with someone else. It all starts small and it gets better with time. At the beginning, it was much harder than now, of course. But now it's much easier to have access to whoever we want to talk to.
So to go into a bit more specific, so for example, Baard, the drummer from Leprous, which I am a fan of, how
Yeah.
did he react to your music, and how did he convey to you that he's interested and he wants to be part of this?
Yeah, so I will give it to you super honestly. At the beginning, when we reached to Baard the first time, he said, "I'm not interested
Okay,
because I'm super busy." And
okay,
then I checked with him another time, and I think I checked with him for Kaoteon,
mm-hmm.
and he was like, I'm super, I cannot do anything right now other than my main focus, but I'm short on cash. If you can, guys, cover my expenses and pay for the studio and pay me a bit, and then maybe I would be able to do it as a sessionist, which a lot of musicians do it as a sessionist.
Yeah,
And but it was super expensive. Like we said, no, of course not. We can't go with this. And I said no, so we didn't do it. And
okay,
then we stayed in touch. And by this time we were releasing stuff. So we didn't use Baard, but we used somebody else. And then the albums got a lot of hit and fame, and we are still connected. We shared it with him. And then he was like, okay, I'm saying, I believe.
yeah,
And if Baard is watching, sorry that I'm assuming what you are saying. I don't think he's watching. But the thing is that uh, he thought, okay, these guys are not like doing something shitty quality. They are putting stuff, quality stuff out there.
mm-hmm.
And by this time, like by the time I was working on this album, I was already talking to Bud for like 2 years, on
Yeah,
and off.
wow,
And then
okay,
I sent him these demos that I have composed and what is the idea behind it and what I want. And he was like really interested because it was nice music. Sorry, but yeah.
well, we're gonna talk in a bit about one, at least the released tracks, and I can definitely confirm I loved it. It's really nice music. We'll talk in a second about it. But before we jump into that, why did you choose Baard? Because he's not in most, the genre that you are releasing usually in. He's more into the prog and even less metal recently than, his latest albums with Leprous are not really much metal than experimental rock or prog rock.
Yeah. Well, two things. One, because I don't want to sound like other bands out there.
So changing your
Two,
sound is one reason. Or
not changing my sound. The sound I was trying to do in Death
yeah,
Tribe, more
yeah,
groovy, more prog, more adventurous, more avant-garde. If you listen to the
okay.
riffs, they're not extreme metal riffs.
Mm-hmm.
You have extreme metal in the atmosphere,
Yeah.
but it's not what I'm aiming for.
Mm-hmm.
I was going more for experimenting in a different genre. Bard, I'm a big fan. I love his rhythm. I love his groove. Even if you listen to the first Death Tribe album, Matthias, he
Yeah.
is a drummer that is super groovy. He's not known
Mm-hmm.
for his speed. He's not known for his technique. He's known for his grooviness, for his beats, for his unique way of playing. So Bard is a step as well further in identifying this Death Tribe sound, or at
Mm-hmm.
least what I'm trying to achieve with Death Tribe. And that's why, because I didn't want a drummer that actually only blasting or double pedaling or doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think that he has a very good taste. And I'm trying to experiment. I have 6 out of 8 songs with strings there.
Mm-hmm.
It's very based on rhythm and beats and riffs that stick to the mind with accents. So I'm not really focusing on the aggression. I'm more focusing on the overall sound and melodies and what would stay with you in my
Mhm.
own perception or way. And I believe that Baard and Linus on the album and the different vocalists like came together, especially with Chris Bohm, the violinist, came together really, really as a full unit, and every element complemented the other to have this full work. And I'm super proud of the result. I can share with you if you want
Yeah, so
a couple of minutes from the movie that we are producing.
definitely would like to see it, but just to share for a second, Thawra. So just to talk briefly with that, on August 4 or few days after August 4, you released this as your first track from the album, right?
Yes.
And the motivation to was it already planned to be released that time, or what happened in Lebanon was the main motivation
I
to?
was scared of your question. I thought you were asking if I planned the explosion.
Of course, no one would do that. No, no. uh, that
No,
would be like the biggest, the weirdest release ever.
yeah, you know,
No,
devil worshippers and all that stuff.
yeah,
uh, it's quite good that we are laughing about the explosion after 4 months,
it's a
but
big
it was
tragedy.
a super huge tragedy for what
Mhm.
happened. And I remember quite well that every single Lebanese and non-Lebanese, I hope, was in a super shock, and it's a mixed feeling of sadness, hopelessness, anger, but mostly anger. And no, it was not planned to be released as the single because it's an aggressive track in terms of vocals. I'm doing the vocals on that track. I don't do vocals a lot on my music,
Mhm.
uh, but it was a track that I'm doing for Lebanon, because Lebanon is not only about the explosion. A lot of people don't know the story, but has been like ages of suppression, oppression, that we are singing about, talking about, and evolutions. But in the past year and a half, people lost their savings, their life savings. People lost
Mhm.
their assets. I am one of the lucky ones having a job in the Netherlands, but I lost all my savings that I ever did in Dubai or anywhere because I moved them to Lebanon before moving to the Netherlands. My parents lost their savings. My parents suddenly became my kids. I have to send them money to support them
Yeah.
for their day-to-day expenses. So it was a super tough time. And then the explosion came, and I was like, what the fuck? When you think that it cannot go worse, it
Yeah.
just does. And
Yeah.
every time it does. I left Lebanon because of 2006 war and 2007 bombings and 2008 bullshit. And then you think like the new generation that is now trying to be hopeful with all the revolutions that are happening is just defeated. And you see now, like the old regime is back in power, and the revolution is, I don't know if it's still alive and kicking or if it will come back. But it's a very tough situation. And I already did this song to in respect of the efforts of the new generation that are doing the revolutions that we did when we were younger in a much better way. But I had it prepared, and then I was like, the explosion came, so I called the Donican Films production, and I told them I want to change some scenes in the video,
Mhm.
and I want to release it as a single because we were already working on the movie. We were already past. We were on track 4 out of 8, and the album, the music has been already over since a year. But I'm working on the movie, and I want to release the music with the movie.
Yeah.
So I changed a couple of things and decided to release it because it was devastating. I mean, Bashir, the drummer, was there. It was hit. Shadi, our friend, he was hit. A lot of other people that we know were hit.
Yeah.
Some best friends of my wife are still suffering from it. They were in a state of like a coma for some time due to it.
So
So it is very heavy. And this was my way to shout like, what the hell, if I like to
yeah.
stay polite is what I can say. So it's really sad, and this was the only way to express the sadness and anger. And what can we do to put fuel in the hearts of the young people, like not to lose hope?
I see a lot of course, anger in it, and I see this message is saying it's becoming again one of those kind of anthems for what's happening in Lebanon. And we know, like for example, KIMAERA had their kind of a cover anthem, and it became kind of echoing the feelings we have. And this track really echoes the feelings we have. Uh, and I want to ask you, like, do you think you would allow someone to cover this one, maybe Majid al-Rumi, in a classical style?
Yes, I would. I know it's a twist question. I respect Majida.
Yeah.
And I respect KIMAERA. And I respect Beni. And I respect artist copyright.
Yeah.
And many musicians worldwide would not accept someone to copy their music for whichever reason. Like one of my favorite musicians, Tom Waits, he has many lawsuits for people covering his music without asking him in any shape or form.
Mm-hmm.
Now, having said this, of course, the situation and what's happening and everything, Majida could have let go and didn't need to say bad things about the sound or the music or what it is. But again, I don't like to take things out of their frame in the sense of, what do you expect from Majida? She's always on Télé Lumière. She's always singing in the church church that we know that talks about metal in a bad way. She's an amazing woman, amazing artist. Her speeches on evolution sometimes are hearts melting, and you feel like she should be a politician. But then she does things like this, and you think, okay, it's good that she's not a politician. So I cannot judge her, and I cannot blame her. At the same time, I love what KIMAERA have done, and I love their art. And of course, it's a very nice song. You cannot ruin the song. It's an amazing song, like everything about it. So the way they rearrange it is really nice.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is what it is. It is one of the best Lebanese songs ever to exist, written by one of the best poets ever to exist in the Arabic world.
Definitely.
So yeah, it would be an honor if Majida even thinks to use the melody of Thawra in her music without even the words or the shouting.
I wanted to suggest you look into some of the poems by Nizar Qabbani. There is many that should be metal songs. Many.
I know Nizar very well, and I know many poems from the Arabic days, like not only days. How do you call it? Arabic من عصر. Yeah. So different artists, and I always believe that we have ample of talent and the lust of agony. But somehow they write something and they do something else. So even when they are writing in anger or in expression, they portray a different thing in their real life. And this is what's a bit confusing to me and shameful. Like, they don't stand behind their art. They do art, and then because of society, they try to hide their message or change it. Because I can't believe that someone who can do such an art has these kind of thoughts. And the few artists that left Lebanon and were super amazing, like Jubran Khalil Jubran, okay, he's mainstream for some people that want to stay in the underground, under the bush. But Jubran has written amazing books, amazing poems. He has painted amazing things. And you see that Jubran is really like sad about Lebanon and how it is portrayed. He's sad about the trumpets that are played for politicians and leaders, and then the hooting that comes afterwards when they fail, but they vote for the same parties again and again and again, and that's from 1920s. Like, it's insane when you think of it. Like, the same stories in Lebanon are repeated over and over and over and over, and we are not
for
learning.
100 years.
So why should I expect better from a woman who is super living the traditions of a Christian, of a nice Christian family, conservative artist? So I let her be. I respect her. I don't expect much from her. I treat her based on, and then I expect her to respect me and respect my art. and how I would do things. Because I don't think that we can ever meet an opinion. I cannot convince them. They cannot convince me. So we have to accept one another, just like we accept different races, different cultures, different sexual orientation, different everything. This is a something to as well accept. It's a different tradition, and it lives on its own. And I cannot be with or against it. I'm just like, okay, I don't bother. I won't go there.
I see. Yeah, I would definitely agree that they have different perspective on things. They are in a different environment, and for big famous artists, they have kind of this, this image to protect and this kind of reputation to protect. I think that's what motivated everything that happened after KIMAERA's release and all that.
Yeah, I think it's more image and ignorance again. Because when you don't know and you are learning about something from someone that doesn't know, so your reference is wrong. Like she was told that these guys are screaming. I don't know what they told her, And she was like, okay, what is this? And then they told her music of the devil. And she's like, the dark sounds that they are doing. And I don't know. And then she had them put the YouTube
take the
video down. Yeah. I mean, it's a shame. It's a shame. But what can we do? I wouldn't have taken that step. Like I would KIMAERA have done an amazing job, but I wouldn't have done it because I don't want to deal with that shit. I cleansed myself from that shit.
But see, this is kind of a problem. I didn't want to talk too much about it, but I think we have to mention this, or at least I have to mention this, that taking classic songs that everybody loves and knows very well. You mentioned that when new music comes out, many people like give it 30 seconds and they're, bored with it. They don't like it. But when you're at least familiar with what the song is and you're listening to it with a new style, you're a bit more patient to listen to it, right? You want to hear how did they take whoever's artist song and remake it. Maybe Wa'il Kfouri, I don't mind. I don't care. And then at least some new audience will be a bit more patient and curious to listen to it. And if they start to enjoy it, they could maybe start to be a bit more familiar with what that music is, more tolerant to what it is, and maybe they could start, asking themselves, I've never listened to whatever tracks, and start listening to Pink Floyd or whatever. So it is a way to familiarize other people with metal.
I'm not debating that.
Yeah, but if we decide that we don't want the headache of it and let's just avoid it, that's also, leaving this possibility out of the question. I'm not saying every artist should work on this as a goal, like, I want everyone to know what metal is, I want everyone to like it, and I'm gonna cover every famous track ever. Many bands
if metal everybody knew what's metal and everybody liked metal, metalheads will stop listening to metal.
Okay.
If metal becomes Justin Bieber of the world, metal will lose what it is. Metal will always be the underdog, the underground. It is what it is. It is dirty. It is raw. It is rough. It's ugly. It's just like you said. If you want to compare it with movies, it will be your thriller, your horror. It will not be mainstream. There will be a hit here and there. Like, I don't know if you want to call System of a Down. They were mainstream. Rammstein, they were mainstream. You always have a couple of movies that make the billboards, right?
Yeah.
And then same thing with metal.
Surprises.
But the thing is, okay, you can familiarize and do it. But even if you want to cover now Black Sabbath, you have to go and sign a contract and make it happen. Let's give everything its size, and it is what it is. If you want to cover any big band that has a huge song in Lebanon, in هذه القوقعة, in that globe, in that universe, this is the most famous song in the East. One of the most famous songs across Lebanon, Syria, Turkey, blah, blah, blah. This song is super famous. And she is attached to it. She did it, and she's known for it. And you are taking her throne. This pure woman who's trying all her life to show that she is like very close to God, and she is in the choir and the church and everything. And then suddenly she hears her song on the TV. She doesn't have copyrights, and someone is shouting, and they tell her it is the music of the devil. This is what I'm telling you. I'm not interested. However, making people know metal, talking about it, going on TV. I went on TV and talked about metal on LBC with that Ahmed بالخط
I remember you went once with your face hidden and your voice
Yes.
changed, right?
Yeah. So it is what it is. You do it in different ways, but and again, I admire what KIMAERA have done. I'm just saying I wouldn't have done it because I know that this shit will happen. So I don't want, as I told you before, if something will weigh on me and stop me from going forward,
Yeah,
I have so
you don't
little
want it.
resources and energy to put into these things because I'm already putting a lot of energy to try to do something meaningful. So I don't want to deal with that shit.
Yeah. So let's go back to the red experiment. Why exactly was it red experiment?
Why it was the red experiment? First, because beyond the red light district, a Canal experiment.
Okay.
Second, because of the color red. الوجه هيوج.
What does it mean for you, the color red, right? Yeah, it could be a lot of sentimental eroticism. That's why it's called red light district, right?
Yeah, the red is the color of many things. It's the color of love. It's the color of blood. It's the color of
anger.
Anger.
You could say, yeah.
Yeah, it's the color of so many things, and it is very interpreted in so many ways differently. And this is what the movie is all about. I will try to the best of my ability not to explain the movie or the messages behind it or the title or everything. It is self-explanatory as much as we could, but I would love to keep it to the viewer to interpret it in their own way. It touches on several topics that we are living today, from climate change to Black Lives Matter to Lebanon and the explosion and the revolution, to different cultures and the clash of civilizations, to Zionism and Islamism and Christianism, and to how people are materialistic, and it touches on industrial farming and how we are disrespecting the planet and the virus, but how it's put all together and what is what and which element is what and the symbolism behind it. I tried as much as possible to hide a lot of messages there, and if you play the movie backward, then you will get to know what it is.
You will hear some sounds, right? Some messages again.
I don't know. You have to play the movie backward.
Okay, we'll find a way to do that. Maybe print it on a picture, put it on a disc player, and rotate it.
Yeah, you have to play the whole movie backward and listen to the music vertically, not horizontally.
Yeah. Okay. We'll have to find this new secret formula to discover the message you have. Exactly. I see behind you on the design, you have those circles, and every circle has a theme in it, right? In the design background behind you. I think this is not the cover itself. This is maybe in the booklet, right?
No, this is the cover itself, except that the logo is here. This as well cover, as well as Kaoteon cover, has been done, and the first Death Tribe cover. All three covers are made by the Lebanese digital and photography artist Shab al-Assif. And the concepts behind them, I work on them, but he translates everything that I try to brainstorm with him into this amazing digital artistry. He is one of the best talents I have worked with, especially when you want something more realistic. And of course, he develops worlds that are not available, but he's very expressive to the detail. If you see in the bottom, on the red bottom circle under 8A, you see the old cover of the first album. Okay. And then on the right hand side, where you see the balance held by one of the hands, you see the good things that are still available in our human world.
Knowledge.
And on the left side, you see all the bad or wrong things that I, in my perception, believe that are happening and we are exploiting. And on the top, you see that the earth is being burned out of its resources. And it's crazy when people don't care, because I believe without the planet Earth, we don't have any other place in the world. So we have very limited resources in this world. And it is planet Earth that should suffice for generations and generations and generations to come. But we are exploiting them super quickly, and we don't give a fuck about every decision and that we make, every purchase that we make, every thing that we do. Yet we claim that we are metalheads and rebels, and we want to shout for what is right in the world.
Yeah.
But suddenly, metalheads are becoming more and more irresponsible. They want to be drunk most of the time. They don't want to have a career that is in any field. It doesn't have to be in a corporation, but they don't want to have a career. Like even in music, they want to be like acting silly. They don't understand that it takes discipline. It takes you to be aware. It takes you to be focused so that you can reach your goals. And yeah, I mean, it's a pity, and it is a message that I'm trying to put out there as much as possible. Like, what the fuck are we doing in this world? I will share with you 2 minutes because we don't have a lot of time anymore. I have to leave,
Okay,
really.
go ahead.
But I will share with you 2 minutes of the movie, as I promised.
Okay.
Can you hear sound?
Did you start sharing? It's not.
Oh, I thought that you can already see it. Wait. Let me see what I can do. Can you see a black screen now?
Yeah.
Okay, boom. Can you hear it?
Yes.
I'm thinking that I'm the last. They can't be real. A forgotten reflection. It could be you.
Yeah.
I want to see it all.
That's
Really
nice.
good.
This is my family, by the way. It's
Okay,
my dad.
personal.
That's my mom. That's me. That's my wife. That's my sister.
Okay.
Uh,
So when should we expect us to have this released, or how can we get to see it?
I don't know. 2021. This one will come out first, if I may say, before Kaoteon. And I'm just checking the best way to release it? Will I upload it to YouTube? Will I try to approach a streaming service and delay the release? Because if I approach, let's say, Hulu or Prime Video or Netflix as an underground release in some countries, then it will take a lot of time in processing and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Or should I just put it on YouTube, and then if it gets the views, they will launch it? So it's a big process that you have to think of, and it's a new area. So just this takes me back to 2011 when I released the first album, and we were clueless. And we didn't know what we are doing.
Yeah.
And this is a new area and a new field that I would love to experiment and see how we can do better. But yeah, it is very, very, very nice to see that we're taking it up a notch and able to do such a project.
I would love to have it on Netflix. If it's like worldwide Netflix, I can like stream it on with if they maintain the sound quality, there will be like easy access anytime I'm anywhere I want to listen to it and watch it. I think it would be nice.
That would be a dream, right? Like you aim high and you see what you get.
Okay,
that would be definitely a dream. I'm not sure if I will be able to realize this dream, but it is definitely something that I would love to achieve. It's to be really something.
So I guess we'll wait. You'll share with us the news if it's going on YouTube or going on any other platform. We'll follow
Most
up.
Probably,
right?
if I want to hit 2021, then I will have to have it on
YouTube.
On YouTube, yeah, it's not a choice. It will be it will be mandatory, or else I will have to wait for a much longer period of time.
So, okay, let's see how things go. I guess we'll have to wait and see. I will be following up on the news, both for Death Tribe, Kaoteon. Maybe if we'll have another talk. I guess we tried to talk about many things, and there's always more to talk about. So we'll have much more maybe for another talk again.
I will give you another teaser. If anybody is still with us after 2 hours, and I think if they are, they deserve to see something else.
Okay, go ahead.
I will try to share with you something more, because it's almost 2 hours. I had something to do, and I really appreciate if someone is listening for that long. So, can you see the screen?
Yes.
Here you go.
By a paper defining me, playing hide and seek with a past that discriminates me. I have been wondering why the world denies me this high that another is born with, while I'm ripped off this desire.
So, yeah, tell us the story. What are we looking at? Is it like your solo, very solo thing that it's Anthony, Anthony's track?
Yeah, so basically this is, as a musician, I like multiple styles and genres, and some of them I like to create stuff in them. And this came during the period of everything happening in Lebanon as well.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I would like to play something acoustic. And then I gathered some musicians, and really amazing musicians I have here. The drummer is German, the cellist is from the UK, the bassist is a Syrian refugee living in the Netherlands, Michael Asmar. He is a very dear friend of mine who was living as well, like since some time. We're friends, and yeah, this is my non-metal project that I'm putting out there, where I'm composing everything, but as well I'm singing in a clean vocals. So yeah, expanding the engines of creation.
Why not? And you're aiming for an album for this also at some certain time?
it will be a 2 singles or
Okay.
a EP,
Okay.
and then what comes after, only the future can tell. But for now, I will release 2 singles. With the artwork, I worked with a Lebanese artist on this song. Her name is Nadine Frale, known as Viola. She's very famous for her character. Check her out at Viola. She did a very nice artwork for this track, which I will be showing in time.
Okay.
And the second artwork for the second single, I tried as well to paint it myself. And I will put it out there as well. And hopefully it will be something that people will like.
So this is another side of your musical talent, right? Another style, another approach to creating music.
Another part of my schizophrenic personality.
We all have that. We all have that. It's good to express it. No problem. Yeah. I personally, I would also definitely enjoy listening to that music. So it depends on, what the time of the day. I might actually prefer to listen to this rather than sometimes, the heavy stuff. So I try to balance a bit of that, a bit of this.
Of
But
course.
music is always great as long as it's, a bit, as it's enjoyable. As long as you enjoy it, it's good music. So I guess we've reached the end of this. We planned to have it much shorter than the time. We went a bit more longer. From my perspective, we have no limit on the talk. It's always up to you how much you want to express.
We could
yourself.
speak for hours and hours. It felt a bit like there's a lot of I.
It's your story. I want you to tell your story.
It is what it is. Yeah, it is what it is. And I hope that people are appreciating the effort, because there's a lot of effort in it. And at the end, yes, putting it out there is for them to appreciate it and hopefully influence and inspire people that they can do what they want, they can achieve the dreams they want. And every time I try to put something out there with a better quality, is just to improve this experience.
Yeah.
And I'm quite confident that a lot of Lebanese artists, even in the metal genre, will reach much more achievements and much better places than me or all the others that did reach places so far, because we barely touched the surface. And we have very good quality music and very good bands and very good talents that just have to believe in themselves and put the effort behind it and the discipline, and they will make it happen. If they believe in their thing, let them put it out there, and it will happen sooner or later. And if it doesn't, they tried, instead of just nagging and blaming it on being Lebanese or being not able to afford. Or, I mean, if you can afford going to BO18 or going to Gemese and Mam Khail every day when it was still alive, now they opened again. But if you can spend on a drink and a beer every single night, going out, some people don't go out every night, but you know what I mean. Like you can still put some money on the side to release your music and work on it. Making the music doesn't cost money. So making quality music costs zero, because you sit in your bedroom and you play until you have it. Putting it out there, yes, I agree. It's super tough. But once you have amazing music, then you can start making the puzzle work together and put it out there.
And you can bring people in to work with you, right? When you have something good to present, you can motivate others to tag along, right?
Like you have now things that we never had before, like crowdfunding. And so if you put a single out there first and you ask people to fund you for an album and you have quality music, I think they will get the support that you need if you make quality things. And don't feel shame that you are asking for crowdfunding, or that you I don't know, like people promote their music and they feel like they shouldn't promote their music because someone should pick them up from Lebanon. So just do it, believe it, put it out there, and make it happen.
Push for it. Okay, Anthony, at the end of this, I just have one small plug, one small thing to share with the audience. Just a reminder, we have shirts by Lab Metal. You can find those shirts on our website, labmetal.com. If you're interested, we have one which is the Thawra. So we're calling it Defenders of Freedom. It is about the Thawra. It's a really nice shirt. The one in the middle is Leb Metal in the style of those, black metal logo. So you're not supposed to be able to read it, but it says Lebanon. And the final one is our, the common logo we're using as Leb Metal. And if anyone would like to support us, he can always buy one of those shirts, and you can find them from our website or on Amazon.
Do you trade? I send you a album. You send me a shirt.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. I have most of your albums, but I need the last one. I don't have that one. Anthony, again, thank you very much for your time. I hope this was fun for you, enjoyable. I hope
it was.
For me, it was nice to hear your story, a bit of your adventure along the way, and the difficulties and how things go. I really wish you a lot of luck on what's coming next. I really hope that your album gets the success it deserves. I have a good impression on whatever I heard so far and seen so far. I see quality and very good music, creativity, and something new. So I wish you all the luck. I hope we'll have the chance to talk again. And for today, thank you very much. Thank you for everyone listening. We're going to close live, and this will be uploaded to YouTube so you can watch it again, full, uninterrupted on YouTube. Ciao.
Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity and for taking the time to have this talk with me. I feel humbled, and really thanks a lot for everyone who has supported the music that I make, whether with Kaoteon or Death Tribe or any other projects along the years. It means a lot. And thanks.